Welcome to Mimir Library, where timeless stories find their voice.
This is Chapter 6 of Waves Between Us by Amir Honarmand. Enjoy!
As they emerged from the maze of Kalechi's streets, the Mediterranean stretched before them, vast and glittering in the early evening light. Alara paused at the edge, where cobblestones met sand, her eyes drawn to the gentle rhythm of waves lapping against the shore. "Let's walk along the beach," she suggested, the words surprising her even as they left her mouth. The practical choice would be to head straight back to Tatley Mornings. Celine would be expecting her, but something in her resisted ending the stay just yet. Liam glanced at her, a question in his eyes that quickly softened to understanding. "I'd like that." Without discussion, they both slipped off their shoes, letting them dangle from their fingers as they stepped onto the cool, damp pebbles. The beach was quieter now, most tourists having retreated to prepare for evening meals or drinks. A few figures dotted the shoreline in the distance, but this stretch belonged to them alone. The water kissed the shore with a hushed, steady rhythm. Salt hung in the air, mingling with the fading scent of the earthy aroma of wet stones. Alara wiggled her toes against the smooth pebbles, enjoying the sensation of being unanchored from her usual responsibilities. They walked in silence, sometimes side by side, sometimes with one trailing slightly behind. The space between them expanded and contracted like the breathing of some invisible entity that connected them. "I used to collect these as a child," Alara said, bending to pick up a perfectly flat dark stone. She turned it over in her palm, feeling its coolness. "My pockets would be so full by the end of the day that my mother would scold me for stretching out my clothes." Liam smiled, selecting his own stone and skipping it across the water's surface. It bounced 3 times before disappearing beneath the gentle waves. "Show off," she teased. "My grandfather taught me, said a man should know how to skip stones and tell stories." He glanced at her, his expression softening. "I was always better at the stones part." The confession felt intimate somehow, a small piece of himself offered without prompting. Alara found herself responding in kind. "I can't swim in deep water," she admitted, her eyes on the horizon, where sea met sky in a blurred line. "Everyone assumes, because I grew up here, that I'm like a fish, but," she shrugged, "the vastness of it terrifies me. I stay where my feet can touch the bottom." Liam nodded, not dismissing her fear or trying to minimize it. They continued walking, the wet pebbles crunching beneath their feet. Their footprints mixed and vanished with each retreating wave, erasing the evidence of their passage. "What's your favorite season here?" Liam asked, his camera hanging unused around his neck. For once, he seemed content to experience the moment without capturing it. "Spring," she answered without hesitation, "when the orange blossoms scent the whole city, before the tourists arrive in full force. Everything feels possible." She paused, then added, "What about you? Do you have a favorite time of year to travel?" "Autumn," he said. "The light changes. Everything gets this golden quality, like the world is preserving its warmth before winter." He kicked at the water's edge, sending droplets sparkling in the fading sunlight. "Also, I hate cucumbers." This made her laugh. "What? Why would you hate cucumbers?" "They taste like disappointment and wet nothing," he declared with mock seriousness. "Also, they contaminate everything they touch. Put one slice in a salad, and suddenly everything tastes like cucumber." Her laughter echoed across the water. "That's the most passionate opinion about vegetables I've ever heard." "Not vegetables, just cucumbers." His smile was warm, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "What about you? Any food aversions I should know about?" "Licorice," she said, wrinkling her nose. "It tastes like medicine." They continued this way, trading small confessions and insignificant preferences that somehow felt significant in the sharing. The city sounds faded behind them, leaving only the steady hush of waves and the occasional cry of a seagull overhead. As the sun dipped lower, painting the water in deepening shades of gold and amber, Liam stopped walking. Alara paused beside him, waiting. "You're not what I expected," he said quietly, his eyes on the horizon. The statement hung between them, simple yet profound. "You're not what I expected either," she replied, feeling the truth of it in her bones. "That's probably why I agreed to today." Their eyes met, and in that moment, Alara felt the last of her carefully constructed walls begin to crumble. The warnings that had echoed in her mind seemed distant now, drowned out by the steady rhythm of the waves and the certainty that whatever this was between them deserved to be explored. The tide was coming in, water lapping closer to their feet. Like the shore, Alara felt herself being reshaped, her edges softened by each moment spent in his company. They arrived at Tatli Mornings as twilight descended, the cafe now closed and silent. Alara pulled her keys out of her pocket, the familiar jingle a reminder that she was returning to her domain. She unlocked the door, stepping inside the darkened space that smelled of cinnamon and coffee grounds. "Come in," she said, her voice soft in the quiet. "I just need to check that Celine closed up properly." Without thinking, Alara reached for the switch that controlled the fairy lights strung across the deck. They flickered to life, casting a warm, golden glow that transformed the wooden planks into something magical. The lights reflected off the dark sea beyond, creating the illusion of stars floating on water. Liam stood in the doorway, silhouetted against the deepening blue of the evening sky. "I've been wanting to photograph these lights since the first morning I saw them." "No photographs tonight," she said, surprising herself with her boldness. "Just be here." He nodded, understanding passing between them as he set his camera on a nearby table. "Wine," she offered, already moving toward the small refrigerator behind the counter. "I keep a bottle for emergencies." "Is this an emergency?" he asked. The voice carried a hint of amusement. Alara paused, bottle in hand. "No, just a moment I'd like to extend." She poured 2 glasses of crisp white wine, the liquid catching the fairy lights as it splashed against the glass. They moved to the edge of the deck, settling side by side with their legs dangling over the sand below. The beach stretched empty before them, the water now a deep indigo in the fading light. "Tell me about this place," Liam said, his voice quiet. "How it began." Alara sipped her wine, the cool tartness a pleasant contrast to the warm evening. "It was a wreck when I found it, just a forgotten shack on the beach that nobody wanted." She gestured around them. The roof leaked, the floor had holes, but the location— "Perfect," he finished for her. "My parents thought I was crazy. They'd run a restaurant inland for 20 years, a proper place with walls and a roof that didn't leak. This was just driftwood and dreams." She smiled at the memory. "But I could see it, what it could be." "You built something real here," Liam said, his eyes scanning the space with appreciation. "Something with a soul." The simple observation touched her, not just a compliment, but recognition of what truly mattered to her. "What about you? Your photographs have soul too." Liam swirled the wine in his glass, watching the liquid catch the light. "Maybe. But sometimes I wonder if I'm just collecting moments without really living them." He leaned forward, not with his body, but with his words. "You've seen the world. I've barely left Antalya." Alara murmured. "And yet you've built something here that people come back to, that they remember." His voice dropped lower, weighted with something that felt like confession. "Maybe I'm tired of being forgettable everywhere." The admission hung between them, vulnerable and raw. Alara felt the weight of it, understanding how much it had cost him to voice this doubt. A mosquito buzzed past, momentarily breaking the spell. From somewhere down the beach, the faint sounds of nightlife drifted toward them, music and laughter from a distant bar. But here, in their pocket of light, time seemed stopped. "I don't think you're forgettable," Alara said, finally, her voice barely above a whisper. She watched the fairy lights reflect in his eyes as he turned to look at her. Something unspoken passed between them, acknowledgement of the fragile hope taking shape in the space they shared. "When I'm behind the camera, I'm safe, observing, not participating." His fingers traced the rim of his glass. "But being here, in this cafe with you, I don't want to just observe anymore." The Mediterranean continued its steady rhythm in front of them, waves breaking against the shore in a constant, reassuring pattern. Alara felt herself balanced between two worlds, the solid, dependable life she'd built, and the unknown possibility sitting beside her. "I thought freedom meant leaving places before they leave me," Liam continued, his eyes now on the horizon where sea met sky. "But honestly, I'm not sure." Alara's heart quickened at his words. This wasn't the easy charm of a tourist passing through. This was someone questioning the very foundation of how he lived his life. She took another sip of wine, letting its warmth spread through her chest. The fairy lights above them flickered slightly in the gentle breeze, their glow faint, yet persistent against the deepening night. Night settled fully around them, stars emerging in the velvet sky like scattered diamonds. The fairy lights, strung across the deck of Tatley mornings, created a private universe, their warm glow catching in the ripples of the wine and reflecting off the dark sea beyond. Below, a few late-night beachgoers strolled past, their laughter carrying up on the breeze before fading into the rhythm of the waves. Alara's fingers found her silver necklace, a gesture so habitual she hardly noticed she was doing it. The cool metal against her fingertips anchored her to reality when emotions threatened to sweep her away, like now. Liam watched her, his gaze steady and perceptive. "You do that when you're thinking too hard," he said softly. "What are you thinking about?" Alara started to brush off the question with a light comment, but something in his eyes, an earnestness, a genuine desire to understand, stopped her. The words rose up from a place she usually kept carefully guarded. "About caring too much again. I'm afraid of being left behind with nothing but silence." Her voice slightly trembled. "Of building something beautiful that disappears like footprints in the sand." The confession hung between them, raw and honest. She hadn't meant to say so much, to reveal the core of her fear so plainly, but there it was, exposed under the fairy lights and stars. Liam set his wine glass down with deliberate care. He shifted his body to face her fully, one leg still dangling over the edge of the deck, the other bent beneath him. His eyes never left hers. "I've spent years chasing perfect moments through a viewfinder, always moving, always looking for the next shot, the next story." He reached out, his fingertips grazing her arm. "I'm not looking for a story here, Alara. I'm looking for something real." The simple truth in his words cracked something open inside her. All the mornings, her mother's gentle caution meets protective concern, her own hard-learned lessons seemed to dissolve into the night air. A strand of hair fell across her face, caught in the gentle breeze. Liam reached up and brushed it away, his fingers lingering against her cheek. This time, she didn't pull back. "I don't want to figure this out without you," he whispered. The space between them seemed charged with electricity and possibility. Alara leaned forward slightly, her heart pounding against her ribs. "Then don't," she answered, her voice barely audible above the sound of the waves. His lips met hers softly at first, a question rather than a demand. The hesitation lasted only a moment before deepening into something warm and certain. The taste of wine lingered on his tongue, mingling with the salt of the sea air that clung to his skin. Familiar, yet thrillingly new, like a favorite dish prepared with an unexpected spice. His hand slid to the nape of her neck, fingers threading through the loose tendrils of her hair, drawing her closer until she could feel the heat radiating from his body. Alara's breath caught in her throat as a delicious warmth spread through her core. She surrendered not just to the kiss but to the deep connection flowing between them, her body responding with a hunger that surprised her. Her fingers traced the sharp line of his jaw, feeling the slight roughness of evening stubble beneath her fingertips. She memorized each contour, each angle of his face, as if committing it to memory through touch alone. A soft moan escaped her lips as his hand traveled down the curve of her spine, igniting sparks along every nerve ending. From somewhere down the beach came the echo of distant laughter, the sound of lives continuing their normal rhythms. But here, between sea and sky, time has stopped for them. The Mediterranean continued its eternal dance with the shore, waves breaking and retreating in a pattern as old as the earth itself. When they finally pulled apart, Alara kept her eyes closed for a moment longer, savoring the lingering sensation of his lips on hers. The fairy lights twinkled above them, stars of their own making, while the real constellations watched from the vast darkness beyond. "I've been wanting to do that since I first saw you," Liam confessed, his forehead resting against hers. Alara opened her eyes to find him watching her with a tenderness that made her breath catch. For once, she didn't reach for her necklace. She didn't need its reassurance. Instead, her hands found his, their fingers intertwining like they always had been meant to fit together. The sea still moving, unchanged by their moment of connection. Yet Alara felt fundamentally altered, like something essential had shifted within her landscape. Like the tide reshaping the shore, this kiss had redrawn the boundaries of what she believed possible.
The story ends here, but the library is always open. Subscribe for more free audiobooks.